Welcome to Built to Finish. I'm your host, Stephen Pivnik. Join me each week as we explore the journeys of audacious goal setters. This includes experienced founders, CEOs, and entrepreneurs sharing pivotal moments that propel their success. We'll also be talking with endurance athletes who push the limits of physical and mental ability. This show is brought to you by Acresis, offering tailored, high-impact advisory services to help founders get to their finish line with a strategic acquisition or majority investor recapitalization. Let's get started. Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Built to Finish. It's really my honor today to introduce today's guest. He is a California native and proud graduate of UC Berkeley. He came to Cal as an exceptional athlete, starting for the legendary Cal Rugby team. While competing in his 31st national championship, there was an incident that changed his life forever. His response since then has spread inspiration across the globe with his positivity and unwavering determination. His story has been shared by major news outlets, including Sports Illustrated, People Magazine, San Francisco Chronicle, and others. His social media videos have amassed millions of views. His testimony is a portrait of courage and serves as living proof that when we have hope, discipline, and a strong team to support us, we are capable of achieving more than we ever thought possible. Robert Paylor, welcome to the show.
Stephen, thank you for having me. I'm so excited about this. This will be fun.
No, it is my pleasure and honor to have you on the show. When I first heard your story, I said, "Oh my God, this is an talk about audacious goal setters." What happened to you happened, and the goals that you set for yourself were beyond audacious. So, without any further ado, I'll let you share the story with the listeners and viewers, and then we'll take it from there.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll lay the broad strokes. My background is as an athlete. And just as early as I can remember, I had a baseball bat in my hand or throwing a ball somewhere, pushing someone around on a football field. And growing up here in the Sacramento Valley, that's what my life was. It was just hot summers and sports. And I didn't play rugby, which we're gonna like spend the bulk of our conversation on today,
Sure.
until I was like 16 years old, because it's such a niche sport in America, right? And there's plenty of schools that don't have rugby programs, but we were really fortunate over here that the high school I attended, Jesuit High School in
Hmm.
Sacramento, is the winningest rugby program in the nation. Actually,
Oh,
it
wow.
has 10 national championships since they started competing in 1999 and won their first. So it's just a really unique culture. And I loved contact. Football was always like what I got most excited about and what I really like saw a future in and was working towards. And then I go over and I try this sport of rugby and I just fell in love with it.
Hmm.
It was like, this is the best game of the world. Like you have a game plan, but you're not like, I don't have like specific assignments and plays called every 30 seconds. It's very fluid. I liked that.
I have to assume that it's kind of a polarizing sport. Some other sports people tried, like, maybe I can get used to this. I'm
Yeah.
assuming that with rugby, you either love it right away or you hate it right
You're
away.
so right. Yeah, you're so right. Totally polarizing. To give anybody who doesn't understand a lot about the sport some context, it's 80 minutes straight with just halftime. We have a 15-minute halftime break in the middle. That's our collegiate rules, but it's continuous like soccer. So you're getting tackled, there's breakdowns, and you just keep going. So it requires a lot more endurance than football, which I learned really early on because we had like our first inter squad scrimmage. And I'm just going like all out, football style, full tilt, full time. And we're like 2 minutes in. I got like hands on the knees, just wheezing. And I'm like, okay, like 78 more minutes to go, kind of thing. So you learn really quickly that energy is a finite commodity that has to be used strategically.
Hmm.
So very different, but I loved it. It was kind of nice. Like, okay, by the end of football season, I'm like, let's get these pads off. I just want to put my shoulder right into someone. I fell in love with it. And it just so happens to be that the number one college program in America, UC Berkeley, is just a couple hours away from where I was over in the Bay Area. So really natural pipeline over the years of players that would be, major contributors over at Jesuit and then get their shoulder tapped to go play for UC Berkeley. And that's what happened for me. I eventually get the offer to go over there. It was a no-brainer kind of decision. The success of Cal Rugby is not even close to being matched over the years. We have 33 national championships in about 50 years. I think the only other team at like any level or sport that has done as well as us is the Harlem Globetrotters, and their games were great. Like we're doing okay. We don't like get the script handed out to us before the game.
You've got to be pretty good if you compare your winning record to the Harlem Globetrotters.
We're doing all right. And I show up there and everybody was the best on their high school team. Everybody was an all-American. So you kind of go from like big fish, small pond to like you're in the ocean now and you're dealing with sharks and whales, lions, tigers, oh my. And it was just I really loved it. I mean, I felt like I was achieving my full potential there. Freshman year, kind of putting in work, developing, not starting, but by my sophomore year, the position that I played, which is called lock, kind of opened up. And it was thinking, okay, if someone wants to raise their hand here and really put forth an effort, it's yours. And I put in a lot of effort, performed well, and I got the starting spot as a sophomore, which isn't really an easy or common thing to do, to be starting as a sophomore for that program. So, I mean, in this period of my life, like my dreams are happening. I'm playing on such a great team and starting at this age. I wanted to go play and represent the United States, maybe go play internationally if there was that opportunity. This was my life. I woke up and thought, how am I going to be a better rugby player? And then add on that I'm like at such a great academic institution. Just life is looking good. It's a really good time to be me.
Were you doing good academically as well, or were you like 99% focused on sports?
Yeah, I mean, I really balance that well because that's the thing about rugby is the professional opportunities are really slim. And even if you do get that professional opportunity, it's not super lucrative. Like, if you're playing the NBA or NFL, something like that, where I mean, if you really have a long, successful career and you play your cards right, like that will just you'll be doing well your entire life. Rugby is just not the case. So you really need to plan for those next steps after you're playing the sport. And yeah, so there was a big focus on that. Wanted to get into the business school, get that great degree. I mean, Berkeley has a wonderful reputation, and that's a hard-earned degree. So I was really focused on that. Doing well, internship lined up. I'm literally like talking to my manager, like, hey, I'm going to go win this championship and then I'll see you in a couple of weeks. So then, get into this championship game here. Huge day. I mean, when you are an athlete, these are the moments that you live for because when you win a national championship, it's not like you're just the national champion for the day. You are a national champion for your whole life.
Absolutely. It's something you wear with pride.
Exactly. Yeah, it's huge. I mean, it really, yeah, that's something you put on your resume. I mean, it's a big thing that follows you. So here I am, in this moment, and I'm starting. I'm a sophomore. I'm thinking, let's go. This is going to be the best day of my life. And I remember all those moments waking up in the morning. I got the butterflies in my stomach. We all have that on a big day, right? And we had our kind of pregame meeting. Very calm, actually, very collected. There was very much a been there, done that approach for us as we're going for, at the time, it was for our 31st national championship, playing against Arkansas State, who I don't think they've ever won a national championship. And like I said, we're going for number 31. We felt really confident about this game. We did a lot of film analysis on this team. So we had a really solid game plan. And so, I get dressed and get over to the locker room, taped up, really good pregame warm up. We felt like we were ready to click. And fast forward to the ball's kicked off. I'm sprinting down the field. We go through a couple phases of play, and then a penalty is called. And we do what's called kicking it into touch, which is when you kick it out of bounds and you get to do what's called a line out, which is like an inbounds where the ball went out. And we had a great kick. We're like 7 meters away from scoring, which is where the game often becomes what's called a maul, which is kind of like when the bigger guys, we group up in one unit and then we start pushing as a unit to advance the ball forward. And the defense's job is to come straight in and they try to stop our forward momentum. So it's a boiler room. It's really where the big guys thrive, really physical part of the game. And that was my moment because I was a big dude. I'm still 6'5", but at the time I was about 245 pounds. I was one of the bigger players on this field, there to move people. This is my moment. I'm like drooling, thinking, let's go, Rob, drive this thing in. And as I do that, the opposing players, they start making these illegal moves and the referee's not calling anything. So immediately 3 players coming from the side. That's illegal in rugby, but the ref's not calling it. And then the first guy who came in, their number 8, he binds me in a headlock. So I'm got like, I'm kind of like back flat, shoulders forward, and then he's wrenching my neck down. I'm able to kind of like keep going straight and not fall immediately. Um,
Do you have the ball at this point, or are you just in that mosh pit of people that are moving
yeah,
everything
the
forward?
ball is behind me. So it's kind of like, in football when like a running back gets stood up and a lineman move the pile. It kinda like that. We're just a little more organized about it. Like, it's a play. It's something that we've coordinated. So, I'm kind of in the front. I'm a workhorse driving this thing forward. Ball is secure in the back, and they just have to stop us from moving forward, and then we are required to dish the ball out and start some phases of play. But it seemed that there was, like, some kind of almost, like, game plan to bring this thing down and sorta of because we were lethal in malls that year. I mean, we were big, we were very coordinated. This is something that we practiced a lot. So it's like, if we were, like, about 5 meters away from the goal, it was almost certain that we were driving this thing in a mall and we were gonna get it. So it was, kinda seemed like, okay, a lot of penalties going on. Maybe it was like, "Hey, we'll bring this thing down by any means necessary. We'll eat a penalty, but we'll live to fight another day." And the most critical thing is the arm around my neck because that's an automatic yellow or red card. If you do that, you are gone from the game. Just making contact with the head or neck. It's very, very severe, very specific, important call in rugby, but the referee is not calling it. So I'm kind of thinking like there's only really two things you can do as an athlete. You can like just stand up and you throw your arms out to the side and you look at the ref and you're like, "Hey, what's going on? You going to call this thing?" Or you just keep moving forward. And that was my decision. Just keep moving forward. And then as I'm doing that, another player chops me down by my legs. So I start falling down. This guy he's just torquing my head into the ground. I cannot get my head up. And I just remember I close my eyes, I grit my teeth, and as I'm going forward, the top of my head makes impact with the ground, but my body keeps going forward. My forehead slams against my chest. I feel this god awful crunch in my neck and immediately just completely disconnected from the rest of my body. Just poof, like I make impact with the ground. I had broken a lot of bones before playing sports, wrist, fingers, stuff like that. So I knew like what that feeling of was breaking a bone and it was in my neck. And this is where like seconds feel like days in this moment because I did not lose consciousness at any moment of this. I make impact with the ground. I'm on my chest, head is like tucked down. And I kind of instinctually at first think like, okay, like let's get up. In rugby, you hit the deck and you get up a lot. Even if you're hurt, no matter what happens, you just kind of keep moving forward. And then I kind of realized, whoa, like, okay, I couldn't like instinctually pop up. And my body's just buzzing. Like if you take a nap on the couch, you wake up and your hand is pins and needles everywhere. You're like, is this thing ever gonna wake up? Like is that as intense as you've ever felt it from about my collarbone down everywhere. My body's just buzzing. And then I kind of start taking like a little inventory. Okay, like maybe I can just kind of like move my torso. No. Maybe I can just kind of like move my leg over. No.
Did play stop at this point? Was a whistle blown? Did people realize that you were injured?
Great question. They knew I was injured, but the play did not stop. So, yeah, which was a bad call because it's not like they were just like on the other side of the field and I was just there screaming and looking like a corpse. Because I was screaming. I was freaking out. They were like within 3 meters of me. So if somebody would have fallen on me, my injury certainly would have been more severe. I possibly could have died. Lucky for us, we scored on them, and that caused a natural stoppage in play to where I could get a proper attention.
So that's the only silver lining here. You actually scored on that play.
I know. I know. It's unbelievable. And I mean, it's like God's grace that I didn't get hurt because they were so close. So then I'm kind of going through this mental inventory and like I'm working my way all the way up. I mean, I'm like, wiggle a finger, move your arm, your wrist, like something. And it's nothing. Medical staff comes over as well. They did have like a paramedic squad out there to assist as well. Very fortunate in that regard because they were stabilizing my spine and making sure there wasn't any further damage. But they're doing their test and they're just like, okay, Robert, can you feel this? And they start like, maybe like touching my leg. I'm like, no. and I can see them like brushing my hand, and I can't feel it. And then they maybe like put their finger in my hand. Okay, Robert, like squeeze my hand. I'm trying so hard, absolutely panicking. I can't do it. And I get stretchered off. And this was like the moment when it felt really bad is when people get stretchered off for a game, a lot of times they'll give a thumbs up and they'll let the crowd know, I'm going to be okay. And people are clapping for her stuff. And there was a good family friend who was there to watch that game with my parents who were also there. And he was like, give us a thumbs up, Robert. And I tried so hard to just give a thumbs up and I couldn't get anything.
Oh, well, so you actually heard the request and you couldn't do anything about it.
Couldn't do it. Couldn't do it as hard as I tried. So, I mean, I'm just like, I'm thinking about my future already. And I'm like, what is going to happen with my life? Because I had seen injuries like this before on TV or like on my phone. And a lot of times you get the updates years later, and there isn't really much of a physical progression. And that's just because these injuries are catastrophic and they're chronic. And I start thinking that might be me. And I'm probably never going to be able to feed myself ever again. I'm probably never going to be able to walk. At the time, I could barely even take a full breath. I was just feeling very short of breath. I'm not gonna be able to itch my nose. I mean, I basically saw a future where it's like, I'm just gonna kinda sit in a wheelchair, point me to where I can kinda look out the window. My mom's will just spoon feed me, help me go to the bathroom, all that kinda stuff. One day, she's gonna die, and I don't think anybody's gonna wanna marry me. I mean, who would wanna marry into this? So I'm not gonna have a family. Keep in mind, I'm 20 years old at the time. It just seemed like there was a very real possibility that my life was over.
Your entire future is flashing behind you, almost like frame by frame, and it doesn't look good.
Just a nightmare, and you're like, please wake up." Yeah, but it's real. And I get over to the hospital, we take an MRI, CT scan, X-ray. I'm just like holding out hope that they're like, "This is just this weird fluke thing. You're gonna be okay." And my hopes are not confirmed. The doctor comes in, he's got a bad look on his face, very matter of fact. He says, "Robert, your injury is bad, really bad. The reality is you'll never walk again. You'll never move your hands. We're going to do our best so that one day you can do something like pick up a piece of pizza and bring it to your face. So if you can just feed yourself, you beat all the odds." He doesn't stop there. He recommends surgery to me, a spinal fusion surgery. He explained that the disc in between my C5-6 vertebrae ruptured into my spinal cord and had fracturing at the C5 and C6 vertebrae. So the damage that was done to my spinal cord might continue to increase unless we fuse these vertebrae together, essentially permanently casting it. So I could, it was stabilized. It would give me some room for regeneration and hopefully get that swelling down that was causing this damage. And he said it was my best chance at some kind of recovery and some stability there, but it was a potentially life-threatening surgery. At the time, I had already peaked a fever up to 103 degrees. My nervous system did not know what was going on. There's a lot of important real estate right here where they performed the surgery. And he told me I had 1 hour to make a decision on whether or not I wanted to go in.
Oh my God.
So I'm like, okay, Robert, get your affairs in order quick.
That's not enough time to get a second and third opinion, which is what one definitely needs at a time like this.
Nope, no time. And so I was like, I'm probably gonna go into it. My mind was pretty made up. I was like, I don't want to die today. That's my number one priority. I don't want to die. But I also need to give it everything I've got. And there was a term I learned over in the Cal Rugby team that really gave me some clarity in this moment about mental toughness, which on the Cal Rugby team, we defined as the ability to focus on the next most important thing. So in a rugby context, that'd be like, let's say someone passes the ball to you, you drop it forward, other team gets it, mistake happened. The mentally weak person would throw their fist into the dirt. They're getting mad. They're focused on that. And then they miss a tackle and they're just like flustered through the rest of the game. The mentally tough person would be able to just internalize that mistake, push it to the side, say, what's next? I need to make a tackle. I need to get over here on the field, like things like that. That's mental toughness. And in this moment, when I applied that to what I was going through in this injury, it's like, okay, I am injured. I broke my neck. This is really bad. I can't control that though. what I do need to focus on is what's going to give me an optimal recovery here to be able to push out those emotions for a second and just really knuckle down onto what's the next step. That helped me a lot, which was further helped by the first phone call that I made after I was given this prognosis. I called my spiritual director. My faith's really important to me. And I was kind of preparing that these were potentially my last moments on earth. And he, right before he hung up the phone, he gave me this advice that's just carried me ever since. And it gave me a lot of power in what should have just been a powerless situation. And he said, Robert, throughout this journey, there's going to be a lot of things that you can't control. But the one thing you always have control over is your mindset, your positivity, your ambition, your willingness to wake up every day and fight this is up to you. And this injury can't take that away from you.
Well said, smart man.
And it's simple. It's not easy, but it's very simple to be able to think like, in all this chaos, I don't have to look at this mountain of a task that's in front of me. Maybe a little climbing analogy here. I can just look down on my own 2 feet and take that step. Control your mindset. Keep moving forward. That helped me a lot. And it really helped me after my surgery, because after I went into this surgery, I woke up, surgery went great. But I couldn't swallow anything. So I couldn't eat or drink. So they had to put a tube up my nose that went into my stomach. And it took 3 days to get in there because I broke my nose so many times playing rugby. And I don't know if you ever did one of those COVID tests. It feels like they're scratching your brain up there. Oh boy, like that times 100, right? I mean, horrible. But it was one of those things where it's like, if we don't get this tube into my body, I will not eat and I will die. Control your mindset. Keep moving forward. On day 2, I noticed that I couldn't cough and I was developing phlegm in my lungs. And I eventually contracted pneumonia, which in a few days, which is dangerous for anybody, right? But was particularly dangerous for me because my diaphragm was mostly paralyzed. So it was every 3 hours, a respiratory therapist would come in. I'd breathe in some fumes that would help loosen the mucus off the wall of my lungs. And then they'd start pumping down like right below my sternum where my diaphragm is, as well as having a machine that would fill my lungs up with air and suck it out really quick like a vacuum. And I'm giving everything I have to push at the same time. I mean, we are filling up like cups, like metric cups of phlegm in each of these sessions every 3 hours. I remember there was one treatment which was particularly bad. And the whole time the respiratory therapist is just like, this is bad. This is really bad. And he leaves. And like the last thing he says is, you're in trouble, Robert, and goes out of the room. And it felt like death was with me in that room, just waiting for me to quit. But I had to control my mindset. I had to keep moving forward.
Somebody should talk to that guy about his bedside manner. That's not a good thing to say to a patient.
No, it's not. It's not. And luckily, I didn't internalize that. I had a lot of support around me. I mean, my mom, she slept on a chair by my bedside every single night for 2 months. 2 months, she was just sleeping in a chair.
Yeah, I mean, I read some of your story, and your family, your teammates, and your faith, they played a major role in your recovery.
Huge. I would not have survived that period without them, honestly. And I certainly wouldn't be at the physical state I'm at now. I mean, it was huge.
Have the relationship changed in any way from then until now?
We've just become so much more resilient. It's funny how when something like this happens, you look back to like your previous self and you're like, it's amazing the things I complained about. And I think that's a lesson for all of us, that oftentimes we complain about the things that we would mourn if we were to lose them. So, it's like, oh my gosh, I got to go exercise now. And what if you weren't able to exercise? Would you be saying the same thing? Like examples like that. And I mean, we've certainly just gained such a different perspective throughout it all. But for me personally, it's just shown me how loved I am and how lucky I am to have people I just know I can always count on, and will always be there for me. It was huge. So it got me through those really tough moments. Eventually I get over to Craig Hospital, which is outside of Denver, Colorado, premier spinal cord injury and traumatic brain injury facility in the United States. I show up there, totally different outlook. The patients, like, they're all smiling. They're excited. They're like, welcome, you're going to love it here. And I'm kind of like, what is going on? Are they drugging you? Like, blink twice if you need me to help you get out of here.
Well, they were probably all in an advanced stage of the mindset shift that you had already begun. And then they're probably seeing the benefits of continuing with that sort of shift, right?
That's it. That's it. And I mean, then the staff fed into that too. You could tell that they loved what they were doing. They knew that they were making a difference in other people's lives every day. And they give this good balance of there's like a dichotomy between false hope and false hopelessness, I think. And it was demonstrated really well, like the perfect balance in the first conversation I had with my neurologist. We got my whole team together when I first got there, and they said, Robert, yeah, what happened to you is terrible, but we don't know where you're going to progress from here. You could walk out these doors one day, and you very well could not. I do not have a magical crystal ball under my desk that can predict the future. And I've been wrong too many times to try and say what's going to happen with your recovery outcomes. But what I do know is we are going to give you everything we've got. And I think in leadership, and especially dealing with difficult situations that our employees might be going through, our athletes might be going through, things like that, that's just the perfect approach to be able to say, I don't know what's going to happen in the future, but I do know that you have the full strength and support of this team. So it's like the perfect balance between false hope and false hopelessness, because that first doctor actually had really good intentions in mind. He didn't want me to get my hopes up just for one day for them to be crushed, because 99 times out of 100, he would have been right. It was a very truthful statement that he put out there. But what he ran the risk of in trying not to give me false hope is potentially giving me false hopelessness, where I just think a trained professional who's dedicated their life to diagnosing an injury like mine just told me that I'm never going to walk or move my hands again. Why should I even try? And I wouldn't have had this sort of recovery that has required an immense amount of effort because I just didn't have any hope in front of me. I had false hopelessness. So I think that's a pretty good leadership lesson there. And that door that the people at Craig Hospital opened for me changed my life. I mean, we went for it. It was 8 to 9 hours of very intense rehab a day, hardest I've ever worked at something in my life. And I came in that hospital paralyzed from the chest down. Eventually I could twitch a finger and twitch a toe. And a year later, I walked out of the hospital doors and I did that impossible thing. I ate that piece of pizza. I went back over to Cal. I graduated.
That must have tasted so good. Speaking about pizza, for the listeners out there that aren't watching this on YouTube, Robert is answering questions with his hands and talking like an Italian, which is a beautiful thing to see from where you came from, which is not being able to move anything on your body.
It's such a gift. It's such a gift. I mean, it's just amazing. And I mean, I took all those abilities. I went back to Cal 2 years after my return. I graduated. I stood up on my feet to receive my diploma. As you mentioned, upper body doing amazing. I mean, I have dexterity. I have my more like trunk support. There's still weakness I deal with, and I work to get better every day. But I've gained so much back there. But really, most excitingly, I can stand up out of my wheelchair into my walker. I can walk up to 400 yards now, and I continue to work at it each day. And it's put me on this path of speaking, of sharing this story, because there's something that everybody goes through. There's something that paralyzes each of us too, mentally and emotionally. And I've learned so much in maintaining positivity and perseverance through this, that I love being able to share some of those like mental tools, the practical takeaways.
No, it's an incredible story, and thank you so much for going on this mission right now to share it with so many people, because a lot of people need to hear it from a variety of different perspectives. I'm just curious, do you go back to the hospital where you recovered or to others to speak to like new patients that are coming in with very little hope and that haven't gone through that mind shift change?
Yeah, it's been a incredible amount of time since I've been back to Craig Hospital, where I had really the bulk of my recovery. Just because it's like distance, I live in Sacramento, they're in Denver, so it gets a little tough. But what I do often is like connecting with people online. So it's a really tight community in the spinal cord injury community. And we need it, because it's just a whole different world that opens up in front of you from just like the basic things, like, just like navigating parking lots and stuff like that. Like, okay, how do you drive? And then like medical complications that are very extensive. It's just a lot that nobody would ever be expected to know. So I mean, there's the practical advice in terms of that. But what I really try to provide more than anything is just that inspiration to keep pushing, to keep emptying that tank. Every injury is different, and it's not just a matter of sheer willpower to overcome these things. It depends on the severity of your injury and luck and how your body's responding to it. A lot of things that are outside your control, but all those things really ought to be pushed to the side. Let that be up to just how the fates decide. What needs to be focused on is just that intentional effort every day to give it everything you have and maximize the potential of the recovery. And so that's something that I really try to help with quite a bit.
Yeah, I mean, the personal recovery can be dramatically impacted if you provide the type of mindset that you apply to it. So, what was it like? I mean, your story has gone viral because it's just incredible. From being paralyzed on the field to being able to walk 400 yards, just wow. From so, what was it like when your story went viral and the transformation that you went through, and how did you navigate all this?
Oh my gosh, so exciting. It's kind of funny, kind of a weird thought, but I used to wonder before my injury, like, who would care if something bad actually happened to me? And in Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, there's a little exercise he does there, and like imagining you at your own funeral. And like, yeah, who's there? What are they talking about? What are you being remembered for? And I kind of wondered like the same thing, like who would care if something bad happened to me? And I thought like, okay, my family's going to care a lot, right? And my rugby team's going to care. My really close friends are going to care. There might be some people who sort of surprised me, but it's not going to be, something crazy is what I'm thinking. I could not have been more wrong. And it's just shown me how amazing people really are. We're talking like, I mean, millions of people online and just like thousands of people in person sending personal messages of how it's helping them through their challenges and really keeping me moving forward. Cause it wasn't like a self-aggrandizing kind of thing where it's like, man, I guess I really am like a pretty cool dude. uh, like seeing like purpose that this was giving me because when I couldn't play rugby anymore, my purpose was gone. That's what like got me up out of bed in the morning.
I mean, you identified yourself as a rugby player.
Yeah, those are my dreams. And I'm an optimistic guy, but I knew I was never going to be able to play rugby again from the get-go. It was gone. Like I needed to find something else. And it was through sharing this story and those messages of support that that purpose was revealed to me. And I could see it's just amazing what people go through that we can't see. And somehow by me taking this on and sharing with others, it's really helping people get through those challenges that they have in their lives, have a greater sense of perspective, gratitude, some of that mental toughness, to where it was like, I wouldn't even wish this away. I couldn't wish this away. It's my purpose in life. And it's just illuminated such a great thing, but it all comes from all those really just generous, gracious people giving me that love that I needed.
Wow, that's amazing. I mean, you've gone through obviously an incredible journey, and you had a great mindset from the very very beginning of it. Were there some really really dark moments where you said to yourself, you know what, this all this positivity and all this positive thinking is just it isn't working, and it's not worth the effort, and you were close to giving up.
Yeah, it's interesting. I've thought about that a lot. And like if there was that moment and you know, I don't think there was that like moment where I was like, I might give up here. It was more, I definitely had moments when I was like frustrated with myself and like just with what was going on. And I remember I went to go get like sushi with my dad. I love sushi. So I was like, I need something to like cheer me up here. Let's get some sushi rolls going. And I was, I was feeling really bad for myself. And what he drew back to was not like, you're having a lot of progress, stuff like that. It was to the people who were being impacted. And there was this one story in particular that like really stood out to me. And it's from the context is essentially that I used to coach youth rugby camps when I was playing rugby at Cal. I'd come back to Sacramento and coach. Age range is like 10 to 14 years old. And there was one kid out there whose name was Talon. And Talon was one of the smaller kids out there on the field, but like he played with heart. Everyone just rooted for him. And I remember I'd give him the ball and pick him up so he could go score. So like imagine me, D1 athlete, like bobbing and weaving in between 10-year-olds and putting like a stiff Heisman on little Jimmy. So Talon could have his bow bent. And we had a real bond. And it was around the time of my injury, about 5 days later, that my high school was hosting a prayer service for me to pray for my healing and my strength. And then my dad shows me a picture on his phone of someone who I do not recognize, but he is obviously fighting for his life. And you can see his hair is just white and thin. His body is skin and bones, very pale. And my dad tells me this kid is Talon, and he was fighting stage 4 cancer at the time, about 15 years old. And it was a part of this picture that his mom wrote a caption, and it read along the lines of Talon wanted so badly to be at the prayer service today to pray for Robert, but he has to be in the hospital undergoing chemotherapy. Tells a little bit more about our interactions that we had at the camp and how he was inspired to then go play rugby. But the message stops with this sentence that is just like seared into my soul. It changed everything for me. And it's been what has really fought off those moments when I'm feeling sorry for myself. And it said, stay strong and keep smiling, Robert. Your strength helps Talon stay strong too. I cried like a baby because I just realized in that moment that over,
I almost shed a tear when you just said that.
oh my gosh, I'm just like, this isn't about me. It's about him. It's about all those people who are inspired when I fight another day. And go back to that sushi restaurant with my dad. That's what we're talking about. Think about a person like Talon. Think about all those people who are being inspired to where it's because the commitment wasn't to myself. It's not like I could just like make that decision for myself that I'd like to quit. There's so many people who are expecting, who need this kind of inspiration in their life. So that's really what helped me. But I think the thing that we all really need to watch out for is not like those moments where you're like, I'm going to give up right now. It's like that slow fizzling out that sometimes happens where you give yourself a few too many breaks at first where you're like, I just got a lot going on and I'm just not going to do anything towards my goal today. And then it just it snowballs, and like before you know it, you kind of look back, a few months later and you're like, I guess I gave up. Yeah, so it's like, I think like that's really important to be really honest when we decide to like give those breaks. It's good to like give yourself breaks and energy when you need it. But I think it's good to also just like dedicate like even just 5 minutes to it or 10 minutes to it, like whatever you can, just a little bit of thing to keep you honest and on track is really helpful.
It usually is it's that tiny little 5 minutes. If you just convince yourself to starting is the hardest part, right? So, like, I've noticed in the past where I skip a training day and then the next day comes around, I'm like, "You know what? I just need one more day off." And then I will myself into, "You know what? Like you just said, just go get on the bike, get in the pool, or go for a run just for 5 minutes just to get the blood flowing." And that little spark of 5 minutes is all it takes, to get back on track. So that's a really, really good point that you make.
Yeah, it's so important. Like just that, like just the first step is always the hardest step. And after that, like you keep your momentum. So I think that's like just a really important lesson for all of us to like take into our lives to not be like so worried of like those big cataclysmic moments, but like that slow fizzling out of stuff. And yeah, I mean, I'm sure you see this a lot with training and stuff like that, where it's like you don't have to climb mountains. You don't have to do that. You're choosing to do that. So I mean, I'd be curious to see like, like if it's something where you just do it for yourself and to have like that personal accomplishment or you are really doing it for others too.
That's a huge part of why I do what I do. I mean, I love to motivate others to, think big and to, I call them, big hairy ass goals or big hairy audacious goals. If you want to be politically correct, I am not. So BHAGs are a big thing for me. And I mean, I do a lot of what I do for myself primarily, but I definitely, I'm in the back of my mind, I'm always thinking of who else will I be inspiring by accomplishing A, B, or C, whatever, craziness I'm up to. But to your point, another one of my new favorite sayings from my working out and training and making progress perspective is the heaviest weight in the gym is the front door. Once you actually make the decision to go and you show up and you open that front door, the rest of the hour or half hour or whatever time you've allocated becomes so much easier. The hardest part is just to get there and open that front door, and then the next hour is a piece of cake.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Yeah, that's just something to always keep in mind. Just like just get started. Just get started because it's just you'll keep your momentum going.
Yeah, absolutely. So you obviously, I mean, you're doing incredibly useful work just by speaking to other people that have been in your shoes and just, speaking about, just giving hope to people in a variety of circumstances. What else are you doing professionally since your graduation?
Yeah, the really exciting thing that's coming up soon is my book. My first book coming out there's called Paralyzed to Powerful, and I've been working on this thing for 4 years. So I could barely write a 10-page paper in college, let alone like some 200 plus page book. So I am so excited about this, to share the story because it's not easy to condense 8 years of battling quadriplegia, into like like a little like a 1 hour podcast or a speech or something. So I'm excited for that long form, but each chapter is a tool that has helped me in overcoming this adversity. So like some of the stuff we've talked about today, like making a selfless commitment. I like talking about a mental diet, like cultivating perspective, things like that. How do we actually do that? How did it apply to my journey and still does today? All while drawing that story along pretty chronologically. So that's something that I'm really excited about getting out there. And
That's fantastic. How far along are you with the book project? When is it scheduled to be
yeah,
published?
coming up.
Do you have a pub date yet?
Yeah, May 6th. So, that is the 8-year anniversary of my injury to the day. So I am so excited about that. Because it's usually a really bittersweet day for me when those anniversaries roll around. It really brings the memories back, and there's no way around it. Those memories sucked. I mean, that was a tough day. But as the years add on, there's just so much more to be grateful for to go from that to everything that's happening in my life now. And I am really excited to just like put that flag in the dirt and be like, I am claiming victory over this day with getting that book out there and really making it to where it wasn't this curse and it wasn't something that broke me, but it became a gift that I could share with other people. So I'm looking forward to it like crazy.
No, it's going to be great. I can't wait to read it, and I'm sure it's going to be a massive door opener to a lot of public speaking engagements. And I'm slowly but surely getting into that space by myself ever since I released my book, and I'm having so much fun. And I know you've already started doing that, and you're just going to be doing it on larger and larger stages. So I'm super excited for what the future holds for you with this project.
I know it'd be cool just to like see the lives that get impacted and stuff. That's the most meaningful part is just being able to like have a scalable solution to be able to like really help folks. So it's going to be a good way to do that.
Yep. So,
Yeah.
what message do you want to leave people with, especially people that may feel stuck or defeated right now, whether it be in a relationship, in their business, in their career, in their sports progress? If somebody's feeling stuck right now or defeated, what would be your final advice to them?
My go-to tool for when I'm feeling stuck is this phrase that I call compared to what. So I'll be like, oh man, I'm really tired, but compared to what? Or there's a lot that I'm going through right now, but compared to what? And it's a form of practicing perspective, right? And for me, in a lot of cases, I have been able to draw on just the experiences that I've been through to where if I got a tough workout in front of me or I'm really struggling to like reach to hit my targets, hit my training goals, to be able to like quiet that voice that wants to complain, that wants to have a little pity party and look back at the experiences that I've been through really helps me like shape that compared to what phrase in my mind. Now, this injury has given me a really solid perspective, but that doesn't mean that I recommend anyone go out there and break their necks so they can have this perspective, right?
Everybody listening, please don't go out and break your neck. That's not what Robert is saying.
Very clear here. Do not recommend. But you lucky for everybody, you don't have to go through something like that to really be able to have that perspective. What you must have is empathy and a willingness to look outside yourself. So for me, it was very intentional early on when I needed perspective shifts almost constantly to look up stories of people who were battling cancer, people who had traumatic brain injuries, veterans who come back from war without limbs, spending intentional time listening to their stories, talking about hey, how they get through their lives every day. A lot of times they have a smile on their face, even. And I'm just like, remind me not to complain about anything ever again. Because if these people were in our situation, they wouldn't be upset when they have to get up out of bed early in the morning. They'd just be excited that they got up out of bed or they wouldn't say like, oh, I have to go exercise. It'd be like, I get to go exercise. I get to go train. That's a gift. So that compared to what phrase, I don't want it to dismiss our challenges. I think it's really unhealthy if we just throw our challenges to the side, because then it just ignores it and it'll never go away. But what I want us to do when we address that phrase is to use it to just put our challenges into perspective. So it's like, you're feeling stuck right now. You're intimidated by what's in front of you. Try to just use that, not to dismiss what you're going through, but to put it down to size, to realize that there are millions of people in this world right now who would rather be in our situation than their own. Let's not focus on what we don't have. Let's focus on what we do have and what we can do with it, compared to what really empowering phrase, absolute go-to.
I love it. Compared to what? I'm going to start using that going forward. Those are really, really powerful words.
No, I use it all the time. I mean, just constantly when I'm going through my workouts and stuff. It's just like a quick little phrase to be able to like put in the mind and just like get right back where I need to be.
No, it totally works. It totally works. I'm very, very sorry that you had to go through what you went through, but your journey is nothing short of miraculous and incredible. And I'm sure it's going to inspire hundreds, if not thousands, of people that are maybe in similar shoes and are going to hear it. So for the listeners out there, if anybody wants to get in touch with you, what is the best way for them to do so?
Yeah, would absolutely love to connect. So luckily I kind of got a monopoly on the name Robert Paylor. Like, it's just like, it's kind of a weird last name. So there's not a lot of Robert Paylors out there. So just type it into X, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok. I'm on all of them. I try to respond to every single message I receive. I love hearing people who have questions, or if they were just inspired, like it keeps me going. So I encourage anybody who is interested to reach out. Yeah, book coming out May 6th, Paralyzed to Powerful, going to be on Amazon, Barnes & Noble online, kind of everywhere you buy books. But I mean, what a joy. I'm so grateful to you for having me on here. And I really hope that connect.
I mean, your story, like I said, is so incredibly inspirational. I no doubt the book is going to be a bestseller. I can't wait to pick up a copy. And before I forget, one last question.
Yeah.
Did your team win the championship that game?
Really good question. We kicked their butts.
Yes.
We smoked them. So yeah, we got number 31 of the national championships there. We did all right.
I'm sure that game and many others ever since have been dedicated to you.
Yeah, no, it's amazing what they're doing, and they're competing right now, going for number 34, coming into the quarterfinals now, I believe. So yeah, we're rooting for them, trying to get one more.
Oh, that's great. Well, congratulations to them and best of luck to their continued success. Robert, I can't thank you enough for taking the time for being on the show today. It truly was a great episode, and your story is so incredibly inspirational. Thank you so much.
Gratitude is all mine. Thank you very much for having me.
You bet. Thank you, everyone, for listening to another episode of Built to Finish. If you've enjoyed this episode, please do like and subscribe and comment. It really does help the show a lot, and it helps me get great guests like Robert to come on future episodes. Thank you very much for listening and tuning in. All the best. That's a wrap for this episode of Built to Finish. Thank you for tuning in. For show notes and more details, head over to podcast.stephenpivnik.com. Special thank you to our sponsor, Accresis, offering tailored, high-impact advisory services to help founders get to their finish line with a strategic acquisition or majority investor recapitalization. Catch you next week.